All right. Hi, everyone. It's Sunday, June 1st, 2025. It's about 8 p.m. in the evening. I'm here in this walk up apartment that I rented in the heart of Philadelphia, downtown, right next to Washington Square Park, I guess is what it's called. Really cool spot. And yeah, today was an extraordinary day because it was day one of the PhD in creativity program. This is the first of 14 days of this sort of immersion that we're doing. And they started out with us all meeting in an art gallery. We were sequestered into this relatively small room. We were all pretty intimately situated around this round marble table. And the advisors of the program took this really interesting approach. They took like an art history or like a visual studies approach to our discussions. So imagine that like our dissertation proposals were a sculpture, and that sculpture was in 3 dimensions in the middle of a room, and that we were all walking around the sculpture, sort of sharing our perspectives and impressions and feelings and thoughts around that arise or emerge from that sculpture being in our presence or being in the presence of it, and how the sort of discourse evolves as people shift their perspectives and think about different components of the sculpture as a whole and in part. And so, as a result of this approach, we ended up having some really fascinating and vigorous discussion that turned into sort of like critique or suggestions for improvement or transformation. So I'm going to share my takeaways from today that pertain, of course, to my dissertation topic, which is mistake making in the performing arts. So one of the first things that was mentioned was to remove most of the expository information. So in other words, to refine it down further and refrain from explaining myself too much, which I know I'm guilty of. I talk a little too much. And so I explain my ideas a little too much. And I think that was a really valid point. So I need to get more to the heart of what it is that I'm interested in writing about. And I need to be really clear on how I'm defining what a mistake is and what mistake making is and what creative resilience is. Okay, so that was like big point number one. I think another point that's kind of in that same space but separate, which is I need to not use anything that can be thought of as jargon, like field specific jargon. I have to get rid of words that a general audience wouldn't necessarily be familiar with. So I have to write in a way that is appropriate for a general audience who's reading a book about mistakes and mistake making in the performing arts and creative resilience. So that I think that's really important. So get more to the core and don't over explain, right? And eliminate any sort of field specific language, vocabulary. Basically bring the paper out of academic wording and place it in the vernacular, which is like the sort of local speak, which I think is a really interesting concept there. And one which I'm going to have to really struggle with because, how do you talk about this pretty esoteric idea without using, academic language. But anyway, I digress. The third thing that came up that I thought was kind of interesting in terms of just like structure, which is to get rid of anything to do with the conclusion or outcome. And I'm still sort of grappling with that. It's like, what? You don't want me to propose what the end result of this research is? Apparently, for this first rewrite or revision that it's going to be due on Tuesday, they want me to get rid of any sort of conclusive points in the proposal. Just leave it at the body. Introduce the concepts in layman's terms and explore the idea and why I'm interested in it and my relevance to it, right? Like my connection or relationship to mistakes and mistake making and creative resilience, and leave out any sort of methodology or practical like how to's or anything along those lines. Get rid of all of that and remove the sort of conclusion statements that arise from like sharing a method and what you anticipate the outcomes being. So that's those are that's what I like took from today. There's probably a lot more. Uh, since the discussion was happening in such a fluid manner, it was really hard to like capture the feedback, but I feel like I have it inside of my body. I'm essentially embodying the feedback, so it's hard to sort of explain it just yet. It's still very much in the electrical space of my mind and hasn't really soaked into like the material space of my body just yet. So anyway, I'm just going to leave this video right here and consider it as sort of an update. And I think I'm just going to record sort of retrospectives after each day of the immersion program. So there it is. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and we'll go from here. So yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.